It's a beautiful day for another weekly Q&A live session. And if you are not familiar with these, it is a similar subject to the weekly live streams, except of course, instead of being live, it is pre-recorded. We're going to be fielding questions from both Discord and the YouTube members section. By the way, you can actually contribute for free on Discord. All you need to do is just follow the link in the description below and then find your way over here into the weekly Q&A section. Crazy, but yes, indeed, it is right there. All right, sweet. Let's just jump right into it. First, starting off with a very quick top-down analysis on Bitcoin, just focusing on the higher term timeframes here. The 5-day time frame and the weekly and actually bi-weekly time frame are all closing simultaneously tonight. And I do believe that there is a pretty good potential for the beginnings of a reversal here. Again, I'm not saying a reversal to new lows or anything like this, so fucking relax. Fucking relax the boolas of this channel. But you know, depending upon how tonight's closure does occur, you know, I do think that a short-term / medium-term correction is likely underway. So looking at the 5-day HPDR, and this is actually very, very similar, by the way, on the weekly, we do see that the 5-day time frame as of right now is, you know, one massive, what do you want to call it? Shooting star dildo? Well, that would be the technical term for it. But ultimately, it is a signal of potential reversal. Obviously not confirmed until you actually get a closure below the low of this one. So that would still take another 5 days minimum to happen to really confirm this. But, you know, we should also keep into context where things are at in the greater scheme of things. And the HPDR is a great indicator for this. You can see that this is thus far a rejection of the 50% historical returns region. So, you know, closing below there, or assuming that the 5-day, which closes again tonight alongside the weekly, closes below 108,350, you know, I do think that the potential for reversal is very much there for that short / medium term correction, which, you know, could take some time. On top of that, the weekly time frame is, well, more or less the same. I would feel infinitely more confident about this turning into a realized short term and medium term reversal again, or correction, I should say, if Bitcoin closed below the 50% of historic returns range on the weekly time frame simultaneously with the 5-day, and that is actually pivoted a little bit lower than the 5-day. It is officially at let me get the exact number right here. $107,231.98 of highly inflated US dollars. but yeah, you know, if you do see both of those pivots met, I would say, yeah, really good chance that we do see this one come back down, maybe even below $100,000 again, you know, closer to 95. I do think that would be kind of like the worst case scenario here. But ultimately, you know, if just one of them closed below, let's say the 5-day closed below and the weekly does not, then I'd, you know, kind of throw my hands up in the air and say, hey, this is not like the super obvious setup that you'd necessarily be expecting on this one. But yeah, as it stands right now, very close. And again, below 107,231 on the index here. Yeah, that will be confirmed. And then you got both of those timeframes working hand in hand. And like I said, very likely a short-term correction, you know, at least down to like $100,000 or so. Potential for, you know, another $5,000 slide to $95,000. Again, this is coming after 7 straight weeks to the upside, which really we've only ever seen in the past 10 years. We've only seen, I think, a consecutive 7 or 8 weeks in a row green before at least a red week, and typically that leads into a short-term correction as well. Again, that's not a bearish thing. Like, bull markets don't necessarily end on fucking, you know, 7 green dildos in a row, but certainly they correction can begin based off of that as well. So yeah, anyways, going into it right here, I also do want to point out the most recent price action pivot on the 4-hour time frame is actually yesterday's low now. So it's moved up quite a fair bit to 106,800. So this does essentially define the short-term time frame trend. If Bitcoin does start to come back down and close below that number, then yes, I would be looking for that move basically to around $100,000. That's where the daily time frame can come into play. If Bitcoin does come back down below the low of, was this past Monday? I think it was 2 Mondays ago, the 12th of May, at 100,800, and these numbers are too fucking big, okay? They're too goddamn big. $100,800, I guess. Like, my fucking tongue is breaking. You know, if Bitcoin also violates that level as well, okay, yeah, then probably somewhere around $95,000. There's going to be stops along the way, but again, you know, putting things into context, like, overall, that's still going to be a higher term time frame, higher low. And while I suspect that that would, based off of a lot of the comments that I get, really scare a lot of people, ultimately that would be another higher low and a perfect place for this rally to continue upwards and onwards. Anyways, and probably and very likely correlates with a prolonged cycle here as well. Anyways, let's get now into the YouTube member section because YouTube members get priority here. And we shall go down the list. We're going to start it off with It's Asti. Asti says, Tesla Daily Weekly, nice, just getting right down into the business. I like it. Tesla right here. And we'll start off high, then we'll finish low. We've been bullish on Tesla overall, and especially since this area right here. Again, full disclosure, I do own Tesla. I do own Tesla from about 280 or so. It's not really a position that I plan to trade around, but traditional markets are also in kind of a corrective phase as well here. In fact, NASDAQ playing out that nice pullback that we were looking for, as well as SPY futures as well. And I do think that this can hang on for a little bit more time. So using that as like a general sort of compass as to where most stonks are going to be going, do I expect Tesla to come down, maybe closer to like 315 to 310 region? Probably yes. Overall. But again, I'm not bearish here or anything like this. I don't think it's going to come crashing down, but at some point, very likely a reconnect, whether it's this month or most likely next month, honestly, in June, somewhere around about 310 or so. And then if things want to continue upwards and onwards, that would be a damn good place to continue that rally from. Let me just go back down over here just to see if there's anything significantly different. Yeah, weekly close a little bit in a precarious place. So, short term, a bit of a correction, that's completely fine. Again, you got uptrends here, especially as long as you're above, 270. So, overall, fine. Short term, a little bit corrective there. I'll be wrong, and you can expect continuation probably above like 375 to 385 if Tesla does trade back above last Tuesday's high, which is 355 basically. So yeah. All right, let's move on. We have Cousin Burley. She says, hey, Crown, what are the differences between the VMP and the Joule? Okay, so the Joule is like the full fucking thing, whereas the VMP actually has kind of taken on a slightly different role now. It has one component of the full Joule. The component that it has is basically the faster moving oscillator. Other than that, the VMP actually kind of has evolved into its own separate entity because it does employ some statistical metrics as well. That being, of course, the Joule percentile is what we refer to it as, giving you reads as to, well, what percentile compared to the past, compared to the look back, is this current read kind of showing like, is this current read, stronger than 99 percentile of the past look back, that's where it can give you a little bit more unique information. Whereas the full Joule actually will not give you that, but it will give you that fast, medium, and slow moving oscillators to kind of compare things against. And that actually does provide, I mean, that's what MetaSignal is being run off of primarily. And it's, you can see the results right there. But yeah, overall, the Joule is technically like the full thing, but the VMP, like I said, before it was called the Joule Lite, then we added those other volatility and percentile metrics. So it kind of is a little bit of its own different thing right now as well. But yeah, as far as which one is for you, you can, I believe, well, you can certainly try out the VMP for free for 7 days. The Joule comes, is a part of the MetaSignal's offer now. So I don't actually have so much to do with that anymore. Anyways, moving on, we have Base 4267. He says, MATIC on the weekly, will it ever get back to $1 this cycle? Oh, these are always the fun questions. Will this ever happen? There's always a potential. The probability, however, might be very low. And seeing as it's trading at 23 cents during what is effectively a bull market in 2023, 2024, and 2025, and this thing has only made new lows and lower highs along the way, I'd have to say I cannot expect anything higher than whatever the last lower high was, which is 76 cents. So I'd say, in my opinion, extremely unlikely to be happening probably at any point, to be honest, but we'll say just for this cycle right now. Yeah, whenever you see a chart like this, this is like the traditional shitcoin chart of destiny, where you go straight to the fucking moon, and then it's down only for the eternity of eternity of eternity. And yeah, this one, well, I think that kind of accurately describes what this thing's doing. So, at some point you probably get another one of these epic bounces like you see over here, here, and here. But as you can see, they're all lower highs, and it's basically just a selling liquidation event. So, I would assume somewhere around here, if it does pump up from where it's currently at, which is a big fucking if, but that'd be about half of what you're looking for, 50 to 60 cents or so. So I'd have to say you're playing a dangerous game there, sir, or at least that's my opinion of it. But yeah, let's actually like and love these comments. We like and love our comments. Will it ever get back to $1? I would say anything's possible, but I would say that one's rather unlikely. Anyways, Tom Structed next says, thank you, sir. Could you please check out CBA and on the ASX weekly and monthly? Okay, wait, what was it? CBA. Okay, let's go to this chart actually for the stonks. Okay, we got some Australian shitcoins here. And you're looking at a weekly and a month, so very high term timeframes, and overall, very, very good. Not a shitcoin actually at all. This is what a real chart looks like. In fact, just goes up and to the right over the eternity of eternity. Crazy notion for the crypto bros out there in the world, but yes, indeed, that does happen. A lot more in traditional markets. Anyways, as far as this thing goes, look, it is bullish. It's within an uptrend. Your last monthly high or low came in from that April close right here. It even was a massive bullish engulfing dildo. So I think that this one's just generally going to continue. There's going to be pullbacks along the way, obviously. It's going to pull back from here. Look, there's divergences building, but just like with Bitcoin, those divergences can build and build and build. But until you get a confirmed local high, they will not play out. So for this one, in order to confirm a local high, you need to really come back down below this past week's low and close a weekly below there. And then, at that point, probably looking at around 155, 156. Doesn't really look like, to me, that's what's going to be happening here. I think that this one's more likely to continue to the upside rather than play out a pullback. But yeah, that would be my criteria for a pullback. Until then, man, it's just blue skies. So just let the trend be your friend would be my sort of take on this one. All right, Mr. Crypto Rect RD says, Crown, my dear friend, how are you? Actually, I'm doing all right. I have some nice salt and creatine water right here. Per the advice of some of the community members, I have now started to ingest my creatine after eating, and my shits are still fucking crazy. I'll tell you that. Anyways, I prepared a list of tokens which has the higher probability of hitting an all-time high when Bitcoin moves up and achieves new all-time high. Well, we just saw a new all-time high this past week, actually, so should probably have a good idea of which one's actually moving. And just at first glance, I mean, Sui is the one that stands out most to me. It's been one of the best performers of this cycle. Hype, actually pretty good as well. Deep is, I believe, a shitcoin on Sui, so I'm not going to go through all of these because there's a shit ton of them, but I'll go through the ones that are most likely to just at first glance, because I have actually seen a lot of these. Virtual, we'll check out just really quickly, just because I forget what this chart looks like. Is it among the stronger ones or not, is my question. No, not among the stronger ones. Yeah, definitely not among the stronger ones. Okay, so assuming that Bitcoin continues on with its all-time high party, do I think that Fartcoin will make new all-time highs? Actually don't. I think it's putting in a local high right here. I'm sure that this thing has like a million drives of bearish divergence at this point. So, I look at this one with highly skeptical eyes, to be honest. But yeah, in fact, yeah, I mean, it looks like it wants to come down right now, honestly. So fair enough. Wouldn't be surprised to see this thing closer to $1 soon. But yeah, anyways, as far as Sui goes, I would say that's probably going to be at the top position just because it's been this cycle's best performing new altcoin that seems to have like legitimate fundamentals behind it. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's just the take of it. So it's in a stronger position than everything else. Hype would be the other one that would stand out. I do have this one on my list, although I don't own or trade it. Oh, well, this one already making new highs, so this has to be the best one then. Yeah, absolutely. This one has to be the best one. So I would say Hype, Sui and Deep are kind of the same thing. Deep, obviously, going to be like a leverage play on Sui because, well, it's like a Sui shitcoin or something like that. Actually, I have it on my list over here because I was watching it for a while. But yeah, more or less the same chart. Sui actually looks a little bit better, to be quite frank with you. Plume, I think we looked at that one as well. I remember someone called this one out. Yeah. Oh, breaking down big time. Wow. Who would have thought a new shitcoin just goes back to the gutter? I mean, probably does bounce relatively soon, around 15 cents. But yeah, with that new information in mind, it would have to be Sui and Hype. And Hype is stronger than Sui, actually. So that'd be my answer for that, man. All right, nice one. We are through the YouTube members. And by the way, you can actually get priority on these Q&As just by going through YouTube. But it is only available to the members, I should add. Anyways, enough with that. Let's get into the old Discord section right here. We'll start it off with Mr. Van Duysen. He says, what do you get when you combine a rhetorical question and a joke? I don't fucking know. Only one question. No Plume bullshit. No, kidding. Speak of the devil, he's looking for Plume as well. Is there any divergences building up? No, because there's not really. I mean, I imagine there's probably not, but let's see. Yeah, no, there's actually not. This one's actually making new lows on the daily RSI rather than higher lows, and it is not even on a higher low. Well, actually, I mean, that could be hidden bullish evidence, but no, I don't think it's going to work out like that because this one over here already failed. So I'd have to say this thing actually did look like among one of the better ones up until recent. But at the end of the day, most shitcoins do basically this. They give up their rallies and they turn back down. I think that this one's in the process of doing that right here. You know, I'd be looking for this one to come back down to like 14.5 to 15 cents. He probably got a small bounce there. I guess the hopium is that it holds there, bounces strong, and pops back up above about 17 to 18 cents like very soon after that. But, you know, if I'm just going off of what generally happens with these shitcoins, I'd have to say this is probably the beginning of it, of the traditional shitcoin trajectory. But yeah, give it a chance to bounce. I guess there's a little bit of hopium there. I can tell you where the dooming is 100% confirmed, and that is below this April low at 13 cents, especially on a daily closing basis. Like, this thing is going to go down to hell. But until then, a little bit of hopium, I guess, but, well, we'll call it hopium. Anyways, all right, let's see. Let's move on to Mr. Rectops. Says, GM Crown and Elsa, happy Sunday to you as well. What's your biggest position outside of Bitcoin? My biggest position would be, well, I mean, it's all stocks after that, right? So I have to actually look. I assume it's probably just one of my major ETFs, like triple Qs, something like that. It's either triple Qs or what else? What are the other big ones that I own? No, that is the biggest one. Yeah, that's got to be the biggest one. Like, I just have a philosophy in traditional markets that, you know, I want my biggest positions to be in not the safest stuff, but you know what I mean, like the safe ETF bets, which in my opinion is tech, or at least, you know, safe with potential for growth. So yeah. So triple Q is I'm nearly positive that's what it is. Although I do own quite a lot of stonks now at this point. So, but usually if I buy like a singular stonk, I will go like a very, very small position size in comparison to what I do for like an ETF. Again, like, I'm not trying to fucking 20x my portfolio. I'm trying to, you know, just grow it in a more mature manner, let's say. All right, Pesto says, hey, Crown, what made you make the switch from discretionary to automated trading only, considering you were already profitable doing manual trading? Time is just a simple answer, man. Was it primarily less time in front of... Exactly, yes. So there's that. And then there's also, like, look, I'll tell you straight up, man, like, when it comes to manual trading, there is a really, really fine, thin, floss-sized line between gambling addiction and professional trader. And yes, there is a difference, but for me, with a very addictive personality, you know, I could find myself, even though I had several years of success and I was doing well, I could still feel myself sometimes creep into that other space. And I felt like the best way to guard against this is to employ automation, because then that takes my sort of potential, my proclivity for that away. So I wanted to just completely safeguard against that, because it really, really scares me, because that's essentially how I went broke in the first place. So I wanted to remove, I wanted to remove myself as far away as possible from that, just potential, what's the word that I'm looking for? That potential just trigger. No, the potential just fucking hell, man. You know what I'm probably trying to say. that potential point of error. Yeah. Yeah, and exactly. As I've noticed, lots of people struggle to back away from trading even after they have made it 100%. So this also scared me as well, because so many people, even my mentor, they had trouble later on in their careers after having, really good success, primarily because they just kept on going. And so I want to minimize that as much as possible because my priority is just not going to Rune, you know, because it just fucking sucks. And I'm getting older to the point where like I don't. If I needed to do it again, I'm sure I could muster up the energy to do it. But I would like to also safeguard against that if possible. All right, Tristram says, Krong, please. What indicators are most important to you for the 5-day chart? Oh, I mean, it completely depends on what you're trying to do, man. Like if you're just doing general analysis, I think the HPDR gives you like a really good, just sort of general idea of what things are looking like right now. But it depends on what you're trying to do, man. I mean, are you trying to long-term trade? If so, okay, moving average is probably going to be, a good do there. Are you trying to be more of a scalper or range trader? Well, then the HPDR is going to be pretty good at that, as well as giving you, a general indication of kind of where you are in the grand scheme of things as well. BBWP, I mean, that's going to give you the BBWP plus the stochastic momentum oscillator. We have that 5-day setup with that traditionally going. So, that provides a lot of directional bias. It just depends on what you're trying to do, man. So yeah, I don't really have like a good one-fits-all answer for you because there's just quite literally not. Toba says, GM Crown, what's up, man? Hope you're staying hydrated. Yes, one moment, sir. Stock RNMBY, RNMBY. Boom. Oh, this is the German defense stock. Nice. All right. I like my defense stocks. It's been on a tear, weekly, monthly, quarterly. Yeah, I imagine it's going to be on a tear just because, well, the EU needs to rearm and they probably want to go with a domestic producer. Quarterly, I mean, look, all of this is bullish, man. It's getting into likely the end stage of this current parabolic rally. So I'd be expecting like a pretty nasty retracement and consolidation lower when this all finishes. But, when you're near the end of it, that's when the craziest shit happens. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this one continue up throughout the rest of this quarter, probably even into Q3 as well. But around end of Q3, maybe beginning of Q4, that's where I'd probably be expecting this one to come into a top because this is like a very aggressive move here. Even the monthly BBWP has basically been redlining for a very long time. So like I said, these sort of things, they can go on always for much longer than what you expect, but a pretty easy way to be judging just the parabolic advance and like its strength is, does it hold last month's low, which is admittedly like very far away right now. But as long as you're above there, it's like, look, you don't want to bet against that direction. Yes, this is a crazy chart, but crazy charts can get crazier before they inevitably meet their end. And even then, I mean, this thing's like when it reverses, look, I'm not thinking it's going to go down to zero, but it could easily come back down. I mean, shit, let's go to regular. So like, oh my God. I mean, it could easily, something like this could easily come down 50%. So yeah, just get out of the way of the moving train right now. If you're riding the train, I'd continue to ride it, but be aware that, that train ride is probably ending relatively soon. And when it does happen, it will happen very, very fast. So yeah, as far as invalidations goes, like I said, below last month's low, that's going to be a pretty obvious one. As far as targets goes, there's no way to accurately do targets in a absolutely massive parabolic run like this. They're all going to get blown through. And it's just not going to be very helpful. You're better off waiting for at least like a weekly reversal and preferably, like I just said, quarterly, or sorry, not quarterly, but monthly, coming back down below that last month low. All right. Let's see. Who is this actually? Lazy XPT. What's up, man? Yes, we are staying very caffeinated. Elsa prefers her energy drinks, and I prefer my iced Americanos. How do you live in Europe yet avoid being so low on energy? That would be the caffeine here. That is one thing that they do have quite well, but I can feel myself getting lower and lower energy as time goes on and spent here. Like, I actually do feel like that. I was thinking about it the other day. I'm like, I think I'm like changing a lot as a person from being here. I don't know if I like it as well. Anyways, looking at Monero versus the Derper, weekly and monthly. Sure, man. Yeah, it has been a silent performer. Hasn't really gotten much notoriety recently, despite having one of the best rallies in the short term. This past week, I mean, this thing went up from like 330 to 420, 410. Yeah, not bad. We've been bullish on this one. We identified the breakout actually back on over here, and now it's just following through. Kind of similar to XRP, actually, in that it has this very long form consolidation. I do think that it probably gives another stab towards 420, which is also just a great number. And then you do see a bit of a pullback, but this thing is really primed to actually have a real breakout maybe next quarter, retest those highs, maybe even make new all-time highs. But yeah, among the best charts in cryptocurrency land right here. But, like I said, this is a very, very aggressive run right now. Don't be surprised if after maybe one more spike higher, it does come back down and consolidate lower. Maybe somewhere in like the mid to low 300s, I would expect. But overall, yeah, this is what strength looks like. So I wouldn't be fading it right here. I actually think even in the short term, it probably continues a little bit more to the upside before you get that inevitable correction. And I think maybe the obvious area to be looking for in a correction would be, anywhere between like 450 to 465 region. If it gets there, I think that's like the really, really obvious area. But even before that, I think 420 is an area of interest. But again, it's not bearish or anything like this. It's just, pull back and continue on with the trend. Like this is, like I said, this is really among the best charts that we're probably going to see today, to be honest, especially as long as it's above about 330. So let's say by the end of June, if it comes back down below 330, okay, maybe something else is going on. But until then, I'd really treat this as a chart that wants to resolve a multi-year, almost a decade-long consolidation phase. So pretty impressive, man. All right, cool. Hamia says, GM, sir, on the Fibonacci time extensions, would it make sense that the Bitcoin top would be around the next vertical green bar in... No, that's not necessarily what it implies. It just implies that you probably have a counter move from wherever that date of interest is. And to be fair, we had one relatively recently, and well, this also plays into my thoughts that, more likely to see a pullback around this region than not. It doesn't necessarily need to be perfectly correlated with the highs. And I'm guessing you're referring to this one right here in early August or early to mid August. It might be. I don't fucking know. I can plot out more of these, by the way, because this is just a 3618. The next one would be the 4, and then the 4382, then the 4618. These are just the ones that I look at, to be fair, but they do seem to be working pretty damn well. We'll see if it continues to work. If Bitcoin does get a pullback here, then I would say, yeah, it does. But just because this is the last one that I show on this chart doesn't mean that that's going to be the end of the cycle. It just means that's another date of interest. It could be the end of the cycle, perhaps, yes, but that's not necessarily what it means. So yeah. All right. Let me just refresh X over here. I feel like things are more quiet than usual, but maybe that's just a sign of the times. Bitcoin above $100,000. People don't give a fuck. No one gives a fuck. Oh shit. There are people chatting. Okay. I must have missed them because my X wasn't updating. Triple Baconator or triple flamethrower burger? I don't know, man. I don't eat none of this shit anyways, man. Anything besides pure meat is going to give me the shits. And Rye says, welcome to the weekend. Indeed. Boring as hell. All right, back into it. Let's see. Myth Reindeer says, hello. Today's question is strategic. Okay. I like strategic questions. If you would have had a basket of okayish and mediocre alts at the moment and wanted to get rid of them into Bitcoin and stables, would you do it right away or wait for the pop in June, July? With the way a lot of these alts are looking, I would have to say I would not wait. A lot of these are looking short-term corrective. So yeah, and especially like let's just look at this pair, like the Bitcoin pair. Yeah, almost all of the altcoin Bitcoin pairs are ready to move down. So even if they do move up versus US dollar, you're still going to be losing out in terms of Bitcoin value. So it's kind of like damned if you do and damned if you don't. It's like, do you want to lose or do you want to lose more later? It's up to you. At least that's my take on it, man. But yeah, obviously, logically, you'd expect, well, yeah, of course you want you don't want to lose more later. But yeah, taking losses does suck. Anyways, the story is initially I wanted to hold alts for like a year or so in this cycle, but realized it's too long as well. So apparently you're better off selling them after a first good pump. Hence, I'm currently trying to rotate into Bitcoin for a long hold, but want to maximize this rotation. Yeah, I don't know what alts you're holding, but I would look at that altcoin versus Bitcoin, and very, very likely it's probably going to be in a downtrend. And if it is, then I would just, well, you already know what I'm going to say. That's what I would do. Of course, you are free to do whatever the hell you want. Unicorn says, last week I asked to compare Sui versus Rune on weekly. I worded it weird, so you thought I wanted you to check out both. Let's do Sui versus Rune. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. All right, so something like this is what we can do. Okay, so SUI is the numerator, Rune is the denominator. Obviously, SUI is in a massive uptrend versus Rune. So long term, probably the better of the two. But is this a local high forming here on the monthly? I honestly doubt it. These charts do typically move quite weirdly. In the short term, look, you might see this thing retest these lows around 16, 15, whatever the fuck it is. But I think it's putting in a base here, and your next general move is going to be to the upside, meaning that SUI will outpace Rune, and I think that just makes sense from a charting perspective, anyways. Like, I already know how SUI looks, and Rune looks like, I mean, this is just absolute dog shit, man. Already back around all-time lows. Like, look, almost everything gets their pops in a bull market, but shit like this, that's already at those prior cycle lows. I mean, that's like, it might get a pop. It might get back up to like 325 or $4 in the best of circumstances, but this is just garbage, just absolute fucking garbage. So I don't know what sort of narrative you've been sold on these sort of things. There's always a narrative that goes along these shit coins, but yeah, I have to say, the long-term trend is your friend. Yes, you might get pumps here and there, but all pumps fail. All right. Nuke the Black Cube says, hello, Simp and Virgin. That is both me. GME Weekly. What do you think of the conspiracy theories for this one? I think they're all bullshit, man. Apparently, the Swiss government still holds shorts from $9. I don't know if you can trust any of this bullshit, but what I can, and I can say that like a lot of the narratives that were spun up, look, this is bullish though. Like, no doubt about this. This is fucking bullish, which is interesting to see because it's moving up while most of the stonks are moving down. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see this thing actually rock back up to like $45 to $50. Of course, that's not necessarily confirmed until you trade back above this January high at 34.40. Price action pivot right there is right there at 2. So if you do trade back above there, yeah, I think, you know, $50. Maybe it even goes all the way up to this wick high at like $65. But you know, this is a monthly high or low. You got a higher high right here, so it looks to be a reversal. So I'd respect him, man. Despite my thoughts on this thing as, you know, probably a worthless asset, but fair enough. Doesn't really matter, honestly. Like fundamentals, I think most of us have learned that fundamentals don't really matter all that much. Of course, after being in the crypto market, like explain Fartcoin, maybe. Mexicant Ivan says, for me is I know I ain't need it. Yes, risk luck is bound to run out at the end. In the end, I ended up doing long-term trades, set and forget, right? I mean, long-term trades are great if you're obviously investing in things that, you know, do have long-term viability, but these are few and far between, to be honest, especially in the crypto space. Weird Psycho says, sounds familiar. Hero Crown, Super USD daily weekly prees. Yes, no problem, man. Make me laugh. Yeah, I got my Super over here. And I mean, this thing rallied to, just under $1. It's hard for me not to look at a lot of these ones as likely to put in a short-term correction. You know, likely alongside Bitcoin. I think short-term, this one comes back down to 71.5 cents. If it does start to close below that region, which is effectively the last price action pivot from May 17, then, well, I think that can drag on decently lower, maybe closer to like 65 cents, but do want to avoid getting like too bearish in these regions. You know, if it came somewhere between like 60 to 65 cents, I'd be looking for this thing to try for a bounce. Other than that, you know, we are just under 1 week left to go for this month of May, and the monthly is actually losing some of the major moving averages here. But again, a lot can happen in 6.5 days. If it can close above about 80 cents by end of month, I'd say, hey, okay, let's give it the benefit of the doubt. But for right now, like most things, looks short-term corrective at minimum. What's up, Mr. Lovewoods? Good as always. See you, sir. Love the fib time extensions, man. I use them quite often for analysis. Yeah, I mean, they can give you like just a general idea. You know, it's not like a hard and set rule or anything like this, but which I think is where a lot of people get tripped up. But you know, it usually gives you like a sort of, hey, around this time, maybe I should be a little more cautious, that sort of thing. Anyways, you're looking at NASDAQ 4 hour. Yeah, I believe we last looked at this one for you. Maybe it was probably SPY actually, but same as SPY. I think that this one's in a short-term corrective phase as well. Do I think that this thing can come back down a little bit more towards 20,200? Definitely possible here. You're going to get a bounce off the 21. That's effectively what's happening in the short term right here. Oh, that is the daily. Hold on. Let me go down to your time frames. I don't know. When I go down to the 4 hour time frame, I do think that this thing does come back down and probably fills somewhere around this gap, 20,200. Also the 377 EMA. So, should be a good, nice short-term stopping point. And I'd say that that's effectively confirmed as soon as it trades below last week's lows. I think worst case scenario, you might come it down a little bit below $20,000 again, but it's probably not of your concern if you're on 4 hour and hourly time frame. Short term bearish as long as you're below basically Friday's high, which is 2108. Does it come back down and retest around this low? I think at minimum you're going to get something like that, and if you do carry on further, I'd be looking somewhere down around here. And my personal opinion is that it will come somewhere down around here. But just like cryptos and all the other shit, I don't think it's going to be I don't think this is like a major, massive reversal, back down below April lows, or at least if something like that were to happen, that's like very far off. I just need to see the monthly close above that red 5 EMA at 20,500. And yeah, I think you can get a correction down around there. That's fine. But, I'd be looking for another rally attempt off of that major moving average. So want to keep an eye on like where we're at in the grand scheme of things. All right, we're 35 minutes into this bitch. I'm going to take a sip of water. Chuck Part says, hello, sir. I'm here from the YouTube. I am here from the from the YouTube member section to show you some screenshots of my HPDR median line question. Here is my HPDR in settings. I think I know where this is going. Yeah. Wait. Okay. Yeah. I see what you mean. Okay. I can actually explain why this is happening, but I just first want to say, hey, look, this shouldn't really be like a big issue because, well, it is effectively the same thing. It's just drawing that line out. That's all, man. It's not changing nothing, none of the calculations or anything like this. You can see right here, it's just extending this line straight. That's all. That's it. Nothing else to it. But yeah, as far as, as far as why this occurred, I was actually using a version of the HPDR that Caretaker is currently working on. He's the creator of the HPDR bands. And I just completely forgot that I was using like a copy that only I have access to, and it has slight differences, but yeah, that would be one of them. And yeah, sorry for the confusion, man, but yeah, as you can see, I mean, really, it doesn't change anything to begin with, so all good, like all good, or at least I'd assume all good, and you'll probably get that in a future update, when it's ready. But Caretaker's dealing with his own things recently. I won't divulge into his secrets, but give the guy some space, give the guy some time, and even if you don't need to know what's going on with him, just say, hey, man, I'm wishing you well. I'm wishing you well because we all love Caretaker, man. He's one of the OGs of the OGs of this cave, and he is an integral part to this place, and also just a great friend. I mean, this guy's been one of the most dependable people in my life for 6-7 years now. Crazy shit, man. Anyways, Dunning-Kruger Effect says, hello, Mr. Crown. Thanks for the TA. All good, brother. Could you please take a look at ALATA on Euroderp? Oh, yes. Terrible. Look, if you have insider information, maybe you get in before one of these major pumps right here, but I'm guessing you probably don't. Yeah. I don't even know what timeframes you're going off of. If you do get another one of these pumps, I guess somewhere around like 20 to 25 cents is the area of interest, but it's a difficult game to play, man, because how do you guess that something like this is going on? It's just that. It's a guess. So, you got a short-term reversal right here. I just don't trust these things, man. And especially being that it's like the equivalent of a fucking shitcoin as far as charts go. It's like, I don't like betting against it, or I don't like betting for this shit. Actually, sorry, I revised that. If it does get another one of these pump phases, it seems to like to get rejected around here. So maybe like 35 cents or so. But for right now, it's even getting stopped by the 200 simple. So long term, the direction is down. If you have insider information, then you'll know otherwise. Maybe it does reverse. Sometimes that does happen with these things, but I'm just going off the trend here, man. And I don't think it's your friend over the long term. Again, you can get some pretty epic pumps here and there, but yeah. Mr. Barash says, hello. Hello, sir. Easy question. Nice. Crypto Muzz says, hello, Crown, long-time viewer, first-time post. Fuck yeah, man. Could you take a look at Pendle versus the coins, daily, weekly, monthly? Trying to make more Bitcoins for the remainder of the cycle. All right, so let's see. I'm hoping there's an uptrend there then. If there is not, then I have to say... Yeah, so long-term, hate it. Short, hold on, maybe there's, no, this is as good as we can get. Long-term, hate it. Short-term, does it maybe pump up a little bit more towards 4,800 Satoshis, somewhere around here, maybe as much as like 5,000 or 5,200 Satoshis? Possible, yes, but again, you're playing the same game as most of these other shitcoins where like, you're just hoping and praying for that next pop, but I would feel quite confident saying that this high over here from May of last year is probably going to be your high for very, very long time. In many cases, for many of these altcoins, it'll be for life. But yeah, you know, you do get these one-off pumps here and there. Maybe it's trying to do that right now. If it does, be looking somewhere around here. But long term, the direction is the same. Down. Down and ugly as fuck. So yeah. Yeah, when I look at the quarterly, it's like, do I think it's going to reverse here? No, I don't. In fact, I think it'd be kind of difficult to even get back above like 4,500 Satoshis. But yeah. Yeah, I'll put it that way. All right, cool. Mr. Cloud says, GM, sir, hope you're staying well. We have a lot of hydration requests today. This is good. I like it, man. This is the kind of community ethos I want. At the end of April, I asked about your thoughts on how Swanee's Bitcoin targets could play out, 120,000, potential 208 top. And you said they could be possible if the monthly stoke turns up in May at the latest. And it actually is right now. And higher targets become probable when monthly RSI makes new highs above Jan 2025. Given all the price action since then, do you have anything to add, or do you still stand by what you said? Yeah, I mean, it's actually quite literally playing out exactly in that fashion, even though I didn't think that was really going to happen, to be honest. But as of right now, the monthly stochastic oscillator will officially cross back onto the upside if Bitcoin closes May in 6.5 days above 102,700. Now, I do think Bitcoin's in for a short-term correction here. Does it lose that number or not? I guess we'll find out in a little bit less than a week. And then also you mentioned the RSI. I actually don't remember specifically this point, but I mean, I don't have anything to add on to this, to be honest. If it could take out the January highs, I think that would be necessary for like a 205 read, but you could definitely get 120 on a lower RSI high. I think that's probably how it'll look like, to be honest. But yeah, you know, if it trades back above, or if the RSI goes higher than those January highs, at that point, I mean, you're going to see some crazy numbers for Bitcoin, I would assume. Just for reference, you know, getting back up to the 80 read here would require a price. Oh, it actually wait, what? That doesn't make sense. Okay, I'm reading this wrong somewhere because that cannot be right. That seems way too close. But for right now, I'm looking at 115. It would seem like it'd take a lot more than that, to be honest. Like I would have expected, you know, 130, but fair enough. All right. Anyways, moving on, we have Stone Cold Steve. Stone Cold Steve. Nice. GM Krong, I'm wondering if you've ever looked into overfunding whole life insurance policies. No. The idea being that you can pay into a policy with a death benefit and cash value compounding at 6% a year while you borrow. Yeah, this stuff is outside of my wheelhouse, man. I know that there's all sorts of like super fucking intricate financial type strategies to play this stuff. That's not what I've spent my time studying. So I really don't know, man. I can't comment on that, or at least accurately comment on that. I have no fucking idea, dude. It sounds to me that it'd probably be a scam, but that's just my first initial gut reaction of something like this. So yeah, that's all I gotta say, man. Texas Sig Up says, good day to you. Good day to you as well. Please take a look at Pal ETF. I'm guessing this is Palladium. Yeah. Probably just better to own the spot, honestly. But you know, you're kind of playing that shitcoin game as well. But I actually do think that this one could enter into a pump up phase kind of from where it's at right now. Maybe it takes a little bit longer, but you got extreme lows on volatility right here. So the conditions are actually ripe for one of those one-off just fucking quick rallies and then probably fail later. But, you know, if it does happen, I'd actually be looking somewhere like decently higher, you know, 130 to 140, somewhere between here, actually. But yeah, I don't really know what time frame you want me to go off because you didn't specify. But yeah, this actually does look like one of those times where the conditions are ripe for something like that. I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen, but this is the kind of conditions where it could happen, where you get those like insane pumps really quickly, that quickly unravel as well. But you know, if it goes up like 30% from here, that's nice. That's pretty nice. All right, we're getting 44 minutes into this bitch. What's up, Hawk on Twitter, and Bunny Toss? We're actually taking questions here from Discord. All right, Vane 2600 says, "Is this strategy overfitting?" Let's see. This is going to take a long time to do, man. All right, let's link to the chart. I won't be able to go through like a full thing for this because like I assume it's going to take too long, but let's just see. Okay, so the things that already stand out to me with the strategy tester is, one, your profitable trade rate is like really fucking high. And your profit factor is absurdly high. And I can already see that your first 1, 2, 3 trades make up the overwhelming majority, about 80% of the returns for this. So yeah. But then again, I mean, 4-hour time frame, that's not going all the way back to the beginning of Bitcoin. So let's just see. Yeah, it goes back to 2017 basically. So, or 2016. So yeah, anyways, let's see what you got going on here. Just scroll down and, all right, what are you using? Okay, these are unfortunately indicators I'm not familiar with, but it looks like you're trying to play some sort of seasonality. The more that I look at it, I actually am less inclined to say that you're overfitting it, and just more so that this is probably a strategy that has like massive intra-trade drawdowns because you don't have really stringent exit criteria for risk management. You do have some of these going on as well where it's like doesn't really basically closes the trade as soon as it opens it. Yeah, I'm having trouble finding like, okay, so this is like the big, no. These are, yeah, this is the big winning trade over here that's producing a lot of the results. So stuff like that. Wait, now it just went away. What the fuck? My man, something weird is going on with your charts. Yeah, so it holds through periods like this. So, I mean, if you're trading this on spot or like extremely, extremely low leverage, like 1x or 2x, maybe could work. But yeah, that's kind of your risk in something like this, is that your drawdown is going to be pretty nasty in some cases. In some cases like this, it actually is beautiful. Pretty much buying on the low of the Rona dump. But these are few and far between, to be fair. So, yeah, man. But, you know, you got these big trades over here. This one didn't really incur much drawdown at all. So it does look like it could work. It's just realize like you're going to have to probably live underwater for some time on these. I mean, some of those trades were going to be taking like what, weeks on end? I mean, months on end, honestly, but weeks underwater first. So I actually think that there is something there. I would look at that as more like a long-term investment strategy, and I would not really want to be applying a significant amount of leverage to it if I decided to use it. All right, let's go back here. By the way, this is the quant library for the people who are interested. And now it's actually using the Quant Prime service to derive that strategy, which you can try out for free for 7 days in the link in the description below, as always, as all of these indicators as well. All right. Yes, here we are. CMO Johnson says Aussie stocks, CSL, monthly, quarterly, CSL. Got it. Let's go over here. You know, it's probably going to bounce off of this last low, but it does look weak to me, and it does look like that bounce probably will fail. And I do think over a longer period of time, it's going to come back down around about $200. That should be a nice low area, though. But yeah, I don't think that this thing is going to be taking out the 2024 highs anytime soon. I think if you do bounce, maybe it trades back up to like 260, 270, but I'd really be looking for it to correct back down somewhere around here. 200-ish, give or take, and then at that point, I think you got a pretty good low area. But for right now, you could definitely read it as a range. with these last few lows coming in here, which is why do you think you probably get a short-term bounce if I had to call it? But you know, like I said, 270 to 280, that'd be a great place for another lower high, and then find the final low. And it does actually have some nice bullish divergence come off this last low as well. So fair enough. Long-term, not bad, of course, but I think that's kind of what you're going for there. All right. Chev says, GM sir, CoreWeave, 4 hour daily. Okay. CoreWeave. CoreWeave. Yes, this one. Oh, wow. Powerful. Is that your top? I wouldn't say it's a top just yet. I would say if it does come back down below that last 4 hour low at 97.18, that should be a top for a while. And I would be expecting a correction back down to like mid 80s, maybe low 80s. Until then, you know, you got some hopium here. I personally don't think it's going to make new highs before it plays out that pullback. But in order to really judge like the higher likelihood of a pullback, I'd say, yeah, you got to trade below that last 4 hour low at 97 and change. Let's see. We got Igni Sui. He says, good morning, Crown and Elsa. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing well as well, sir. Regarding your prediction last Sunday about the price moving from 105 to 110, I noticed your forecast was accurate. I'm interested in learning more about the support and resistance levels you identified, what conditions influence your market bias at the time, and what you anticipate might happen next. Man, that's going to be a fucking long ass conversation. But again, the easiest way to kind of judge areas of interest, you know, for these moves that do break out is just going to be employing something like the HPDR. So, you know, here we saw Bitcoin on the daily rally up to the top side of the 50% retracement level, or sorry, not 50% retracement, but 50% of historical returns region, which again, just a major area of interest, and then coming back down from there. You know, it's really all that it comes down to, just going from coast to coast, basically. And that'll evolve, of course, coming into this next week. But this is going to really go deep into this, going to take a little bit too long to answer, to be honest. And we're about 10 minutes away from the hour mark. So yeah. All right. Fuzi says, GM Crown, could you talk about what has happened? What has been your worst trade throughout your trading career? What do you think led you to be in that precarious situation? I've spoken about this a lot, actually. It was certainly my sort of going broke experience. And that was effectively just shorting, or continually shorting, I should say, a straight up bull market in about, I don't know, a little bit more than 10 years now in SPY. And, you know, what led to it? Look, like at the time, I was a very new trader and I was overconfident, and, you know, and I had reason to be overconfident. Like I was getting a lot of really good instruction from, you know, very successful traders. I mean, I was on the floor of the, of New York Stock Exchange ARCA, you know, surrounded by true professionals who've been doing this for like 20, 30, 40 years in some cases. And I was getting tutelage from them. And so I thought, okay, well, I know what to do. But the big lesson in trading and markets in general is that you never know. You can know what to do, but you never know what the market is going to do for sure. So you always need to have some sort of a probabilistic setup, some sort of a fail safe, AKA risk management. And also the other big thing would of course be follow the trend. And that's exactly what I was not doing in that time. I was like, it's got to top. It's got to play at a pullback. No. Well, I mean, it did at some point. It actually did play at a major correction, but I was long gone before that fucking happened. I'll tell you that. All right. Nice. One more sippy sip. Don't think we're going to get through all of these today. Cookie Monster says, GM Crown and Elsa, privacy coin protocols like XMR, LTC, and others were a topic when I came into crypto a couple years ago. Crypto was disruptive. Nakamoto had an idea to overcome the banks. Is crypto still killing in the name of privacy? Crypto is anti-privacy, to be honest. I mean, it's a fucking immutable public ledger, except for XMR. I mean, XMR is a privacy coin, but even then, from what I understand, like they can, if they really want to track you, they can track you. Like it's not impossible. So yeah, if you're looking for crypto for privacy, you're in the wrong space, to be honest. It's an immutable public ledger. Like you cannot fucking change it and anyone could see it. Terrible, terrible, terrible if you do want, privacy. So yeah. Anyways, Jim Bob 365 says, hey Crown, I've been looking at higher timeframes a lot more thanks to your education. It's a quick way of screening the shitcoins. Yeah, exactly, man. People get stuck on like the fucking 15-minute chart and they don't realize that, you know, their favorite shitcoin has like years and years of history of just going down, right? What's up, Lomachilla on Twitter? Anyways, yes, okay. The wicks and sticks are obvious after the recent dump to 79,000 bucks. Alts have wildly different 3-month candle in progress, but I'm interested in Tesla today. Could you now size Tesla on the weekly and monthly? We kind of looked at it earlier, so probably good there, to be honest, but I don't know. Do I want to go? I think at some point you're going to get a correction back down to low 300s, but overall, I think that this is your next higher low. So I think that at least should be a short-term bouncy area. It probably spends its time going sideways and up from there, if I had to guess. Not necessarily bearish on it. Just maybe a short-term pullback. That's fine. JRSB says, hello, Uncle Eric. Oh, dear God. Hello, son. Please review HODL Soul Strategies stock on the daily and weekly. HODL, yes, okay. This is Canadian shitcoin. No, they hold Solana or something like that. Trading range here on the weekly. I know you didn't ask about the weekly, but I do want to see kind of where we're at in the grand scheme of things. Oh, you did ask about the weekly. Okay. Tesla, the top side of the range. What happens after rejection there? You typically come back down to the middle of the range. That would be about 290-ish region for this. So I think you'll at least get down around there. But overall, it is just one major massive range. So you got your lows here around the price action pivot. If it does fail the middle of the range, I guess, I'd be looking closer to $2. But anything between here, is going to be considered long-term bullish as long as it holds that low. That would be the bias. But yeah, in the short term, does it correct more? Sure. It could easily look something like this, right? Comes down here, blah, 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 then maybe gives a try to the upside, or absolutely shuts the bed. But yeah, either which way, I think you're going to be waiting a long time, to be honest. Dark Ra 6466 says, GM Crown, longtime viewer, first time poster. Fuck yeah, man. I've been looking into precious metals as diversification tool, and after missing the gold train, I'm eyeing platinum. Oh, this is always a recipe for disaster, which is looking like it's starting to move. And in truly degen fashion, I'm looking to invest in a platinum mine. Oh, don't do it. Miner's not good. Don't. It makes sense logically, but it rarely plays out in the way that you want. Can you please have a look at it? All right, I'll look at it. IMPUY. I mean, maybe it's great. Let's see. Sometimes they are. Oh, what do you know? A chart. It's literally the chart of a shitcoin. Look, you're in one of these pump up phases right here. I think somewhere between where you're at right now and about 875 is a good place if this thing is going to fail in this current pump. If it does start to really exceed like $9 and close above there, then maybe extend those targets to like 10.5 to 11.5 bucks. But long term, I mean, look, like the trend is your friend, or not your friend in this case. So yeah, I'd say first area of interest is a little bit higher than where you're at right now. If it can actually, if it can actually reclaim that region, then I'd look somewhere closer to like 11-ish, give or take. But yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to be the first person to call a reversal on this thing, but it actually does look like it will go for that $11 target, just because the quarterly does have a higher low here. So give it a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, but maybe I'm just conditioned from shitcoin charts that look like this, that they like never, put in an uptrend ever again. But this thing, I mean, it is a real stock, so I guess it's theoretically possible. But of course, that's just not even a topic of conversation as long as you're below this price action pivot here at $19. So it's got a lot of work to do. Short term, yeah, I do think it continues with the rally a little bit more, at least. And then I'll just kind of take it one step at a time at that point. All right, a few more. No Mud, No Lotus says, hey, bud, hope this finds you well. Regarding stablecoin dominance, with a continuous injection of new USDC and USDT stablecoins due to market demand, does this affect the analysis of the stablecoin dominance chart in any way? They're always injecting new shit all the time, man. And the chart continues to, over time, work. So I'd have to say the results seem to be unchanged. It's all, it all has to be taken into context with each other anyways, right? Brad Walt says, on a video you mentioned a website that I can upload my strategy tester results, and it can provide detailed analytics of my results. It's actually in the Quant Prime service. It is the Quant Companion, and you can find a link there. It's actually free and anyone can use it as well, but it's called the Quant Companion. All right, Jim Bob says, please, could you do one of these review reaction videos like Ben Shapiro does when he watches clips and reacts? Want to hear your review of the TA on YouTube? Oh God, that's actually a really good idea. Yeah, maybe we should. Just like a compilation of absolutely god-awful charts. All right. Maybe we think about that. I need to get an editor again, I guess. Crypto Muzz says, hey, Crown, if you have time, can you please look at silver versus the Derper? Yes. Silver is XAG. Yeah. I know my periodic table of elements. Actually, in my opinion, like very good. I think that this thing's following in gold's footsteps here. Yeah. We've been bullish on this one for a while because I remember someone would ask about it quite frequently in the Discord. I'd have to still be bullish on it, especially as long as it's above April's low. I think this thing's just generally going to be up. You know, monthly RSI looks good to me. Quarterly, same thing. I'm a lot more inclined to say that this thing is getting ready to have like a real breakout towards $40. But hey, the only way that I really get bearish on it is if it just comes back down for a tick below April's low. But I actually don't think that that's going to be happening here. I think that this thing blasts on through. Just personal opinion. But yeah, that's where we're going to end things for today. I need to get off to the gym. As always, I want to wish everyone the best of best. It's been an absolute pleasure on this nice little Sunday morning. We'll be back at it like a crack addict tomorrow morning as well. With that said, take care, much love, and see you hopefully Monday.